Long time. Look,
How many? You're good.
I didn't think anyone could do anything.
Okay, you might as well get started. You want to join me with a pledge of allegiance, please?
Yes.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We have no old business. So we're gonna go right into new business. It's a pre-submission review for 40 Main Street Apartments, map 006, lot 025.
Just start. Yeah, you can.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
think that
Sure.
you like to.
My name's Dan Phelps. I'm with Phelps Architects. And I'm here tonight representing the owner, Lady Suarez of Newcastle. And the property is 40 Main in Damariscotta, map 6, lot 25. So I'll just run down a few points about the project. It is the former site of the a lawyer's office. It's an existing site, existing building, existing infrastructure, existing parking areas. So the project is not proposing any expansion of the building footprint or anything of that nature. It is roughly 2,400 square feet per floor plate, so it's 2 stories plus a basement. Its height is approximately 35 feet. And again, we're not proposing to add on to the building or expand it in any version, as we all can see by the site. It's right next to the river. It's in shoreland. It is next to a flood zone, but not in it. So that's not surprising given its location. Its current use is mixed use. It has business offices, but it also has on the second floor 2 what I classify by code single family apartments. So there are 2 residential units on that second floor. The rest of the building, the rest of that second floor is office space. The first floor is office space. The lower floor, what I call the basement level, is office space. So that's existing. The proposed use is to eliminate the business offices and renovate that into apartment space. And the goal of the project is to go from 2 units to 11 units with a mix. So there'd be a mix of 1 bedroom and studio type units. So the goal is to eliminate all the business space, renovate it into apartment units with a unit count of 11. The 1 bedroom units would be approximately 550 square feet. The studio units would be approximately 275. The way the building's configured, it's existing, it's business space. The units sizes would fluctuate a little bit, just how the design fits in to create the units. So they're not standard cookie cutter units. They'll be designed and renovated to kind of fit the footprint of the building where it makes sense. With regard to the site, there is an existing right-of-way that on the site that is kind of adjacent to the Fernald's lot property. So there's a right-of-way off of Main Street to get through that side of the site and up into that back property, which is lot 26. So that's just something for the board to be aware of. There is a right-of-way that we're dealing with. Parking.
Is it the Fernald? Does Fernald's own that? Do they own
No, well, they're building,
building.
obviously, but just to the other side of that, there's a right-of-way that cuts to the right side of our building that does allow access into the back property. So 26 is behind there. It's not really used, but it does exist.
What, across the Griffin property?
Yeah, towards the Griffin property. There's a right of way in there.
But how, I don't understand this right away.
Yeah.
Where's it coming from? From the street?
Yeah, so it technically it's defined along that edge of the property, but it's accessed through the parking area of the current building to the right. So you go by the right of the building between Fernald's and the edge of the building. There's a narrow travel way there. Then you get into the back there. Technically, our understanding is the Griffin property has a right of way, through that property that we're talking about now. How it's actually used, I don't know if it's used extensively at this point, but it exists.
So the Griffin property has the right of way.
Correct. Yes. Yep.
Understand.
Yep. And that just segues into kind of the parking solutions. So currently in the concept plan, we show 7 spaces, which we can get comfortably. I think with some tweaking and planning, we can get to 11 spaces. That would equal 1 per unit. And I know that is not necessarily meeting the parking ordinance at the moment for apartments. So it's something that we would be looking for consideration. There's also discussion about that the owner trying to seek maybe off-site solutions, if that's a possibility for them, but just to be aware that, according to the ordinance, we are below that standard based on the concept plan.
So you said right now you've got 7 and you think you can get to 11 on site?
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't reflect that right now, but there's some edges along the wooden fence rail that's on Main Street. There's potential for a couple spaces kind of on the edge where the river is. There's a retaining wall there, as most of us know, and then there's a gap, as most of us know, with some improvements.
But isn't that the snow dump?
Yes, that's correct. I believe it is.
The permit. Sadly.
I
I know.
The wooden fence you're talking about, is that right up against the sidewalk?
Yes,
Parallel to the
yes.
sidewalk, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of that timber fence. So I think we could probably get some parallel spaces there. That's a good point about the snow.
And there's a fire hydrant.
There's a fire hydrant nearby. Yeah, correct. Yeah. And with some planning, we might get a space in the back. So we're trying to get to 11.
Lisa would probably rent you some.
I'm sorry. So trying to get to 11 spaces.
Do you go ahead? Sorry.
No, I just going down through my points I wanted to express tonight. That is the points right now in terms of the planning.
Are there residential units in the basement?
Yes, so there'd be 3 in the basement. The basement is it's classified as a basement per building code, but it's kind of halfway in there. So there is light from windows that can be accessed, and then we have planning ideas to create the right type of windows for secondary escape and things like that, with some wells, some proper wells and ways out of there from that point of view. Because the basement is halfway in the ground.
And there's no entrance directly into the basement.
So the planning would, all the units would be served by an internal egress corridor and sets of stairs for exiting purposes. So the upper units would be served by those stairs, and so would the lower units. And the first floor units, because they're first floor on grade units, we would also be providing kind of the second means of egress at grade through doors at grade, because those units are at grade. So why not do it? So trying to solve it that way.
What are the dimensions of the parking spots that you have here?
I believe they're reflected in 9 by 20.
That's pretty skinny, isn't
No, I think
it? Is that,
9 by 18
It's
is
8 by 18 rings a bell.
okay,
pretty standard.
and the E section, is that entrance?
Yes,
Okay, so there's like little entryways.
yeah, so there's an existing entrance on the front. There's actually a rear entrance. And those entrances are currently served by stairways that are open, not to get into the details of the
Mhm.
internal solutions, but we would be enclosing those and creating exit stairs for the units.
And you mentioned you're gonna rebuild the decks,
Yes,
so they're there now, right?
correct.
But they're probably rotten
Um,
or old.
the upper decks are in pretty good shape. The project will reboard the surfaces and maybe do something different with railings, but it's in good shape. Probably rebuild portions of that lower deck that is along the river. Again, the intent is not to expand any footprint, but certainly try to maintain that riverside deck.
Did you say that the second floor was already apartments, and how many?
Two, there's two 1-bedroom units up there, and they are currently served by a enclosed back stair.
So you're looking to increase that to 3, 4?
I think for
1,
first two
2,
levels.
3,
and
4.
in the basement.
Yes, yeah, I think it's in terms of levels, it would be 4 at the second level, 4 first, and then 3 in the basement level, what I'm calling basement. So total of 11.
So the porches wouldn't be expanded in size.
No, the intent is not to expand any footprints.
Are these being developed for year-round rentals or seasonal rentals?
Year round.
Just going back to the parking question, it's my understanding if you don't have the on-site, you can, in your plan, use a public parking as, to get to that point. In that district.
In that district, okay, yeah.
But there happens to be ample parking right behind that property. It just belongs to somebody else. You know what I mean? There might be able to be an arrangement made.
Sure.
The more
Certainly
parking you can get
discuss
on
that,
site,
yeah.
The better off it is.
Yeah.
For sure.
I guess I was looking at the front of that building the other day and thinking, aren't they gonna fit 4 parking spots right there?
Yeah.
I guess maybe. I worry about going too close to the edge of the bluff there. It just seems a little dangerous unless you build something.
Yeah, I agree. If we were to try to locate 2 there, we would certainly be looking to improve the barrier there. And as you mentioned, there is the snow removal portion of it. I admit I'm unclear exactly what that arrangement is.
Well, I mean, it was customary and it's permitted, but it's unfortunate.
I also wonder, do you have any idea if there's an arrangement with the town or if it's just a handshake agreement that?
I don't know the particulars. I believe it's a handshake, but I don't know, Michael.
And it might not even be used that much anymore because
not
their
be.
trucks are so big. I can't imagine. Their equipment is scaled up so much.
Yeah.
That I can't imagine they can easily back up to that and dump it.
That's used every storm.
Yeah.
They don't do it with
Excuse-
trucks. They use front-end loaders with box scrapers that
So they
they clean
do.
all of Main Street goes over there.
Okay, that's where Main Street goes. Okay.
So the intent is not to eliminate that function, to be clear. But if we were to try to do some parking there, maybe the proper improvement is a gate or something so that it could still be utilized, but trying to get to the 11.
So the entrance you'll still be able to get into Fernald's. Or are they gonna have to remove part of their chain fence to access their lot? Because right now they share the entrance with the law office. You know, and then turn right.
Right. Yeah, so but my understanding right now, the intent is to be a good neighbor, I believe, but I believe that's property of this, the property we're talking about now, so maybe trying to capture the required parking for this project and see what can be done with the Fernalds and the neighbor.
Yep.
But I agree, the way it's kind of used now is, I believe there's
They
usage
enter,
there.
yeah, they enter
Yeah.
into your side and then,
You're talking
Right-hand
about car
turn.
traffic.
no, there's really not parking for Fernald's, but there are two apartments in the Fernald's building. And sometimes
Yeah,
the occupants or the owner parks back there.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Yeah.
wow.
And there's a deck. They have a deck.
Yep, I see the deck.
How wide's that right away at its narrowest point?
And a picture of it.
I don't have the actual
thanks.
dimension, Neil, but it is in the. It is in the
Okay,
12-foot range.
Is it?
Looks
Yeah.
to me like you can get more.
No,
parking up
it's
front
definitely
against that
one
fence.
way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes it look a lot bigger than I thought it was. You know, I didn't realize you had all that space over
Yeah.
there.
Anybody else want to see that?
Do you want to see the
Just a map of the,
it's the aerial
just the
view
aerial view of it.
of the, and that you can really visualize this better. Yeah, that aerial view makes it look like there's more space than,
Well, there's a car in there parked against that fence for
yeah.
scale, which is
Mhm.
kind of handy.
Mhm.
Yep.
I mean, if you could probably get more parking up against that fence and up against the building, get your 11 spaces and still leave that access for snow dump open. A little tinkering around.
Or maybe they'll change their habits of snow dumping.
If it change, it may not snow again.
You know, this might have been it.
See, you
We
gotta
got
know what
1,
you
2,
believe in.
3,
you know.
4.
We got too much stuff.
No,
So I believe the ordinance says 2 per unit, talking parking spaces, but Wilder, did I hear you correctly that the municipal back parking lot is
My
potentially available?
There is-
It's off.
It wouldn't be like reserved space, but I think it's customary in the downtown area that
It's available. for
parking-
units.
we adjust, we waive, would we say waive?
We don't use that word.
We
but
try not
it's,
to use that word, but we adjust the requirements with the thought that you can use the.
yeah, I think there's something in, I do remember
Yeah,
something
it's
about,
there.
you can count some parking from the municipal lot towards
Okay, I'll have to look
the
into that.
requirement.
Yes, yeah.
So basically, it's a soft 2 per unit.
Pretty happy if you could get one in that particular case, honestly. Yeah, small apartments.
Yeah, but it'd be great to have more downtown apartments.
I am wondering I guess what prohibition of having parking between the front of the building and the street.
It exists right now, though. It's there.
Okay, just put it out there as a,
No, I hear you 100%.
That's more for retail than living.
Well, it's there and there's no other place.
I know, I don't make the rules. I'm not the judge.
No.
I just am raising the issue.
Well, and it's well, I guess it is a parking lot, but it's not technically designated parking spaces there now, so
It's not technically a commercial lot either.
it's not.
It's gonna be residential.
How many one-bedroom units out of the 11 are there? I can count them up, but I
No,
just figured-
good question. It is, it's three studios, maybe 4 studios, Neil. I'd have to look at the plans again. So
7 or 8.
maybe 7 or 8
Yep.
one-bedrooms, correct?
Okay.
I think, actually, I think it's 4, so I think it's 7 one-bedrooms, yeah.
The other concern that I have is the basement gonna be dark. It sounds like you've kind of gotten, I think I mentioned this to you before, but it sounds like you've sorted out, like you'll be able to get egress and I guess meet the code as far as I understand it. What about, I know the buildings, the footprint is not in the floodplain, but I'm just wondering about the elevation of the basement floor and or windows. I don't know exactly how we're
Yeah,
measuring that, but I'm just my concern be
so we don't have any surveyed data of those elevations at the moment.
Yeah.
But, so the lower level, the basement level, on the side of the building towards Fernald's is, basically full basement. And then as you get around to the other side of the river, it drops off a little bit, obviously, so it creates a little bit of a half walkout. And there's actually existing windows there now that are under that deck. Albeit that side of the space is business use space, so it's offices. But we would, when we renovate into those units, we would create not just window wells, but actually exit wells. That gets us the proper secondary exiting out of those units. And we wouldn't go down further than the existing basement slab, just thinking out loud. So when you stand in that basement and look out at the river, it's right close, obviously. But as you said, when I look at the AE zone maps, it's all outside of that. It's
Right.
all on that edge, because there is, once you get to that edge, there is a pretty good embankment there.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
Does that answer your question?
I mean, to an extent, I know that it's a 3-dimensional problem, and I know the maps, everything is giving me in 2 dimensions. So I'm just want to make sure. My concern is having residential units in the basement, especially where the line or elevation or whatever, however we're going to be looking at flooding is right there. So I just,
Mhm.
you said you don't have survey. I assume you're going to get elevation,
We can certainly get them. The way I was approaching it right now is because it's an existing developed site, obviously, we're not changing any impervious areas or anything like that. It's basically an internal and maintenance renovation. That albeit I know we have to plan the parking spaces, but we would get, in my mind, targeted survey information to create those. And we could certainly document that in our application,
Mhm.
however need be, but to make a short answer is full survey requirement, was hoping not to have to provide, just kind of based on the existing site itself, but
no, this is, I'm not looking for a whole survey. I don't know, we can see what the board
Yeah,
wants,
yeah,
but
yeah.
this I feel like is an issue that we would want to make sure we
sure.
can nail down.
The way I've encountered this before in other projects with this flood zone line in elevations of buildings and things like that. And the way it's always treated is more of a 2-dimensional line.
Mhm.
If you're outside of that line, in terms of where your elevations are, it doesn't really come into play. Although logically, one might think it does, but it doesn't necessarily.
Yeah. Well,
Thinking of it that way.
yeah. Well, I'm not sure if water is gonna follow those. Like, you get a 10-foot
Yeah,
flood and your floor is at 9 feet, or
yeah.
then it's So that's, I just want to make sure that we
Yeah.
look at that. If it was commercial space, it wouldn't be the same issue. It's just like when you have residential space, it's.
Sure. Yeah,
Current building sprinkled,
it is not.
Going to be?
That would be a requirement, yes.
Yep.
Um, because of the unit count in the construction type, we would be looking to put in like an NFPA 13R system in there, so.
Well, I think I remember, we were sitting on this board when that building was built, you and I. Do you remember that discussion about the flood zone and the elevation of water at high flood? In the relation to the height of the basement?
I don't remember the discussion.
I don't remember a discussion about that.
1993. You're kidding.
No,
Wow.
no, I'm not. Get me out of here. But yeah, I remember that discussion about the water levels in the river in relation to the basement floor.
I'm forgetting.
I can't remember what was said about it, but
Is that building built from scratch or did they
there was another,
expand an
there was another
existing-
building there and
and
that
they
building was
expanded
built.
it? What?
There was another building there that was taken down. This was built.
Yeah, and they went closer to the edge, right? They wiggled toward the river a little bit. Anyways, I just remember that.
I don't know. There's not a lot going on there. There's actually a couple of buildings there. It was the old Page's Marble Works,
Right.
you know, and there's actually a couple of buildings there.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if they actually wiggled anything any closer to the river or not.
From our observations, we don't see any evidence of water infiltration
Well, I've never
there
heard of
or
anybody
anything.
saying the place is flooded, so
Right,
that's been quite a while now.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty,
just
it's
as
pretty
a-
high above the,
anecdotal information.
no, but if you look at what we looked for the back parking lot for the plan that was for down there, they had to put that barrier up by the Keno Metcalf's.
Yeah.
To stop the water from coming there, so if they had to stop it there, it's definitely gonna reach the basement of that place, probably the first floor.
Very likely, very likely. I'm not sure what the elevation is at, but it's not that much higher than it is from Zucchino.
No,
yeah, it's pretty hot. It's different.
Yeah, I think it is up a little
It
bit.
is up.
It is up,
But
no question.
so
First floor, definitely, yeah, yes.
I'm just thinking, I think we could get elevation contours for at least that area of the site. And the other thing is setbacks from whatever the high water is for shoreline zoning, 25 and 75 foot setbacks, because definitely in shoreland.
Mhm.
But it's kind of irrelevant, isn't it? Because this is totally within those setbacks.
That's why I want to know where the setbacks are exactly, because
Okay.
you know, it's not, I mean,
As a
the building's
reference,
there,
yeah.
but if you're, you know, and I don't remember off the top of my head, but depending on how far back you are, you can rebuild, you can't rebuild, you can, there's all that. So
Yeah.
I mean, maintenance, I think, is almost always allowed. But-
Yeah, in on not changing the footprint.
Right.
In non-conforming, not that this is non-conforming, but when you're encroaching that close to the setbacks, you're allowed to do improvements.
Right.
Within that 20, you can't expand or the height or anything. They really lock you down in that 20. And then, as you're saying, Michael, incrementally,
Right. Right.
yeah, but so we can define where those are.
Yeah, that's what I
Yep.
want to know. So
Yep.
we know what we can allow.
Are the parking areas going to be all paved? Is it right? Is it unpaved right now?
Yeah, right now we haven't
Gravel.
decided, but right now it's unpaved, yeah.
I just was wondering about stormwater, if, you know, this big.
Yeah, right now, even as that gravel parking, obviously it's impervious. There's some percolation there, I'm sure, and it drains. It drains on its edges, I'm sure.
Just sheet drains.
Yeah, there's no structures there.
Yep.
Right. Drainage structures.
Have you gone through this site plan review ordinance? Or to review against this?
Checklist.
just the whole ordinance, this, because I mean, land use obviously, but I guess it's, no, I guess it'll be multifamily, so it'll be under site plan review as well. And that, you know, there's requirements in there for stormwater and all of that, so I don't know. I haven't gone through the whole ordinance specifically for this project, but I just, we will have to, so.
Okay.
And I don't know what I think I may be mixing it up, but like you can have, doesn't need to be paved, but it might need to be gravel. I don't know if you can leave it as dirt. This is site plan will define all that.
Sure, yes.
They may have to pave it.
May have to do something. I don't know.
Mhm.
Paved, if it's gravel, I don't remember.
That particular site, I don't think it matters all that much anyway. I mean, they're taking and dumping all the snow in Damariscotta right on the edge of that, so. The difference between paving the gravel parking lot and the other option is so minimal that.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
I just want to make sure that there's not increased runoff onto adjacent properties. That's my main concern.
Sure, yes. Basically, the whole front edge is impervious. It's structured parking. It's gravel, but it's considered impervious, really. Yep. Okay.
How big is the site? A lot?
I don't have that exact data. I can get that, Michael.
I just
I'm
want to,
surprised with any more than half to 3/4 of an acre.
yeah.
Right.
How's that fit in?
So I'm just,
Or 20.
I guess as long as you're 10,000 square feet, doesn't, unless there's some other density standard. For Seward. I assume you haven't come across anything that would not let you do 11 units there.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't found anything, no.
I'll look, it's pretty sure this is the only area that has that density standards would be, but I'll look and see.
Anybody else got anything to add?
What's that?
Any other questions, Mike?
I don't have any, no.
Great, thank you.
You got your homework.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, let's make sure we stay in touch about timing, because we'll probably need to do a public hearing, and so I'll have to get it in the newspaper and all that, so.
Yeah. Our next step would be to work towards application.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I assume you're not looking at January 8th then.
We're looking.
You're looking, okay. That's why I want to be in touch then. Good.
Yes, perfect.
All right, so the next one, the pre-submission review for 84 Biskie Road, self-storage, map 003, lot 004 and 002.
Hi.
Hi. Want to state your name?
Yeah, Alyssa Pulver with Gartley and Dorsey Engineering and Surveying. And I am representing Hoppy Enterprises LLC. So they are proposing to build a storage facility at 84 Biscay Road. It's 3 storage buildings. One is 40 by 200 and 2 are 20 by 200. And then also space for 15 storage pods to go at the back of the property. So no water or sewer connection needed for these units. They don't have that. As far as stormwater is concerned, we are keeping it less than an acre of developed as of 2005, so we don't require a stormwater permit from DEP. But we are proposing, to collect the stormwater between the storage buildings and then discharge it to the back of the property where stormwater is already going. And then behind the lot, it's just a big wooded area, which is where everything currently goes. So
What is on the site right now?
it's undeveloped. There is like a gravel access and it kind of like loops around. So there's two entrances off Biscay Road, but we're closing those both off and then just gonna have one entrance. And that's gonna be revegetated, that gravel area. So it's a totally new area that's gonna be developed.
These climate control units, I know.
I'm not sure the details. I know that he's currently talking with a couple different manufacturers, and he hasn't selected one yet. But they're just metal, typical storage unit buildings, neutral colors. Nothing special.
That lot's right between the cement plant and the power lines,
Yes,
Correct.
yeah, the power lines are right next to
either
it.
side
Yeah.
line.
I think just about. They don't.
No, it's kind of, yeah, it's not on the plan, but it's down off to the side there. But it is right over there.
Essentially next to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Not,
Yeah,
I think it's this pink line here is the easement power line.
yeah, the aerial shows it very well. It's a cleared area.
So it's this, here's the power line. I think look, another 50 feet. What is the power line? Like 100-foot right away?
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Not sure exactly what it
It,
is.
yeah, I'm just, the easement look, it shows 50 feet. I assume it's 50 feet from the power line center to the easement and then there's.
Yeah, it does look like we have an easement line on here that shows 50 feet.
Yeah,
Hey, whatever the fly.
so,
Oh, there we go. Yep. Central main power, 100-foot wide easement.
okay.
Yep, we did
Yeah.
locate that. Yep. It is 2.56 acres.
And the buildings cover most of it, right? Or not?
No,
No.
nope. So, let's see. We got 16,000 square feet of building and then 2.56 acres.
Okay.
You said the impervious coverage that you're developing is less than an acre.
As of 2005, when
Okay.
DEP stormwater came into effect.
But there's still
Stormwater management law.
our town requirements.
Yeah, but that wouldn't trigger the
Right,
DEP stormwater requirement.
right, yes.
But so is it as designed? Is it more than an acre of impervious coverage?
I put that on here. Oh, maybe I didn't put that on here. I think yes, yeah, it is because it's greater than half of the lot here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so
I think if I'm remembering right, it might have been like 1.5 something.
okay. Have you looked through the site plan or
Yes,
site plan
yeah,
review?
yeah.
Okay, so then
Yeah, I already started to put responses together
okay,
to all of
perfect.
those. Yeah.
That's great.
So one point I did put this on the application that I wanted to bring up is the parking space requirement. So the use that's closest to storage units is a warehouse, but that would require this to have 24 parking spaces, which seems a little crazy,
That's a lot.
for storage units.
Yeah, probably look at that sometime.
Yeah.
I thought I saw something about, I thought I saw something about storage units.
That's I think in the land use table, maybe that's what I was just going to look at is
So in the
Okay.
parking generation manual, there is a definition of a mini warehouse, which is, the definition is of storage units or vaults that are rented for storage of goods. And that would require 2 parking spaces. So
Oh.
that's what we're showing right now.
2 total.
2 total. Yeah.
yeah, I see on our land use table, it has warehousing and distribution facilities and self-storage facilities, which is this self-storage or is this like private storage for?
Storage for goods, like any
Self-storage.
self-storage.
So, okay, so that's,
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't, it's
Yeah.
not just like a one or two businesses are going to be using this as a storage.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, anybody can rent these out. It is gated and there's gonna be combo code gated access.
Okay.
So
So
you would need that to be able to get in.
as, yeah, and then that's you said the closest thing on our
Yeah,
was warehouse, was that right?
Well,
yeah,
I think she's right. I think 2 is actually a little bit minimal. But there again, when people are going in there to move things in or move things out, they're not gonna go in there and park and hang around.
right. You see
They're gonna
people
park-
parking
They're gonna park in front of their door. they're
Right.
gonna Move their stuff and then they're gonna.
and then they
dump
leave.
it out.
Yeah,
The only thing is, if you had people coming to help you, it might be nice to have a couple more parking spaces. I'm not
Mhm.
gonna
Yeah,
push the
I mean,
issue.
there
but-
There's
is,
other places to park along the
out
road.
of the way.
yeah,
Yeah,
It's not actually parking space,
Yeah.
not formally parking spaces.
yeah, I'm not really feeling it. That's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, I mean, I like at Mike's place, at other parking. They don't have like designated parking areas. It's just sort of like alongside the unit.
Most of these storage units don't. They don't
Yeah.
have
Mm-mm.
designated parking.
no.
To any great degree.
Yeah,
What's the fencing gonna be around it, do you know?
I don't have the details yet on what that's gonna be. He's still figuring out all those details.
okay.
Those storage pods at the back they're gonna come and go.
Yes.
They're mobile.
Yep,
Okay.
yep, those are mobile.
Good.
So there may be less there at a time, but there's room for 15 if they want to have them there.
Anybody else got any other questions?
Pretty straightforward to me.
The fact they're over an acre, that doesn't trigger stormwater.
Well, I mean, we have stormwater requirements locally, which it sounds like you
Yeah,
started
so we'll
working on,
meet all of
so.
that, the erosion control and
Mhm.
everything like that. But as far as state permitting, we don't hit that threshold.
Okay.
Same question for you is timing. Are you trying to be on the January 8th?
If we can, we will.
Okay,
Are you gonna have a site walk or anything like that, or?
I,
You guys wanna go up for sidewalk?
I'm pretty familiar with it, so.
I drive by it every day.
Yep.
It's one of the requirements, so
Yeah,
that'll be
sure.
the only reason I'm asking.
I stop
Yeah,
in there,
yeah.
make phone calls once in a while, so.
Not anymore,
No.
unless you have a combination of renting a space.
Yeah. okay, so.
Okay.
The only thing is gonna be public notice for, we need to do a public hearing. So
Okay.
We,
Yeah, like I said, he's still trying to work with manufacturers to figure out which one he
Yeah.
wants, so it just is a
Okay,
matter of,
so
but
then-
I'll touch base with him when I'm back in the office.
Yeah.
and let
Do
him know.
will this plan require them to cut any more trees to the back of the lot, or is it already cleared enough? To
There
do
will
it
be some tree clearing.
more?
Yeah.
How much do you think?
I don't know for sure, but if you
Wanna see
look,
an aerial?
there is a,
No, I know it, but.
we
I
have
just
the
don't know.
tree line on here. So you can kind of see, let's see, the northwestern corner there. There's some tree clearing.
Towards the cement plant.
Yep,
That's,
Bear in mind, I wanna make sure any sideline buffering, regardless of what it is. Any trees that exist that can stay, need to stay.
yeah,
I don't wanna see
yeah,
this
we're cutting this in as much as we
get
can.
cleaned out of there.
Yeah, we don't want it cleaned out down to the property line.
Mhm.
There has to be a buffer between.
Yeah.
The next-
Leave everything you can leave.
Yeah, I think we have a 3-to-1 slope, which is the most that we want in order to prevent any sort of erosion.
Also, that's parking in front of the building.
that is,
How you like that?
What, it's what?
Parking's in front of the building. Regardless of the fact there's only 2 spaces, there's parking in front of the building, it's a commercial establishment.
between the facade and the road. We can discuss that.
Okay,
Well. Let's not allow it.
Right. Just saying.
Okay. I mean, we have to be consistent.
That's why you can
Could always find a way to put a couple of parking spaces out back. if we had to.
something, yeah, and that's,
Honestly, though, with the wide margins they have in there,
I mean, there,
people are gonna park there on a temporary basis.
there
Be
is
that
room.
long. You might actually have to eliminate the 2 parking spaces.
I'm gonna say, I think we gotta look at it, because
You can't let it go.
no, but I mean, you're not putting parking spaces in between the lots. They're not gonna be marked out as parking spaces. They're gonna, like you said, they're gonna pull up to this spot, they're gonna drop this stuff off, and then they're gonna leave.
Yeah.
If you're gonna put designated where they're gonna have to do anything, then the only place you can do it is back where the portable units are.
I agree. I agree. I get the functionality.
is-
It's just a quirky.
Which
little
is probably
thing.
gonna be a mute issue anyway,
No, I get it.
which is easy to do behind well, unless they're gonna put door accesses in the end of those 2 on either side of the lot. You could put a parking spot on either side of those. You know what I mean?
But I think it would be unusual to have that actually happen.
Right in there,
I mean,
in there.
Normally, these things don't put, you got a line of doors, you got a long skinny building, a line of
Correct.
doors.
Mhm.
They normally don't
Correct.
put doors in the ends unless there's some reason, like they want to get something long in there or whatever.
Yep.
That's an unusual thing.
so it might be, I guess, kind of brown or orange on the sides. Is that
That's
sidewalk?
gravel,
It's gravel, okay, so there's not doors facing the side lot lines.
right?
Those are like kind of like single loaded. The
Yeah,
middle one's double loaded.
yep, yep.
Gotcha, okay. Okay, makes sense. Um. Yeah, I would imagine worst case scenario with 2 parking spots is you might have to mark off 2 of those pods.
I mean, we can mark a
spots.
spot in the
Yeah.
back there if we
That's
needed
right,
to.
you lose 2 pods and put 2 parts, I mean, but we'll look at the ordinance, because I still have the proposed ordinance bouncing around in my head, so
Okay.
I'll have to look at what the actual current standards are.
Okay,
But I imagine that's fixable if it's an issue.
yeah, there's plenty of room if we need to move
Okay.
those. Or take them off, they're fine with not having them as well. We just threw them on there because we need something.
You can screen them, you could put a fence around it.
There is a fence around the whole
Fence all the way
thing.
around.
I mean, like a fence that you can't see through,
Yeah,
like around the parking. You
Mhm.
can do that.
Are you changing a lot of elevation on the site?
there is, it's kind of deceiving, the survey because there is like mounds of fill on the property right now. And that's what we located. So yes, we are based on what you can see from the topo here, but it's not as bad as it looks.
Finished grade is probably gonna be the same as Biskie Road.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah.
There's it drops off quite a bit at the back.
From her. you mean? Is that what you're talking, Jenny, from her map or
Yeah, from her map.
well, yeah, but
Yeah.
keep in mind, she's talking about, they shot those from the piles of the dirt that are there, so it's,
There's huge mounds,
Okay.
like they're absolutely ginormous.
so maybe we should do a site
Let's do a site visit,
visit.
All right, when do you want to do it?
Right.
be early because it gets dark at 3.
I'm pretty open. Go ahead.
Anytime. Except for Thursday.
I got a meeting
Morning.
tomorrow. I could actually do it
Thursday.
4:00.
Or don't we have to advertise it?
Yeah.
We might have to.
I think we do.
All right, let me look at the ordinance and
Okay.
we
Yeah,
can
just let me know.
coordinate a date. Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
You good?
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
Oh, Dan, you don't have to stick around. You just like it here.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
See what happens. But I didn't know,
Yeah.
Some people feel like they're obligated because they came. Yeah, well, enjoy it. I get you. I understand that. Okay. Okay, the next one is site plan review amendment 207 Ledgewood Court Apartments, map 001, lot 050-003.
Has the board looked at the documents that I sent
Yeah.
Yes.
already and
Mhm.
has seen it's pretty minimal?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, but I'll let you explain what you would
I'll
like.
be quick. Meg Robinson with Developers Collaborative. Good to see you all again. I just wanted to give you a quick explanation of why we're requesting this site plan amendment. So back in May, when we received our conditional use permit and our site plan application approval, we anticipated that our primary source of funding for the 32 unit affordable senior housing project, the 4% low income housing tax credit, was just going to be a walk-in program. This year, Maine Housing has made it a competitive program. One of the scoring criteria for the competitive program this year is the number of additional ADA units pledged beyond what's required by code. So we originally had 4 ADA units in our building. To make our application for the LIHTC program more competitive, have added an additional 8 ADA units to score up to an additional 6 points. So that's why we have requested this amendment, because that results in an expansion of our building by about 500 gross square feet.
253.
A footprint. It also results in a slight expansion of our parking lot, and the reduction of our parking lot from 33 total spaces to 32. That's still 1-to-1 parking spaces per unit, as per Damariscotta's requirement for multifamily senior housing, and Maine Housing's requirement as well. But that's just to accommodate 12 full ADA spaces, which are slightly larger than the typical parking space. So I've got more information, more details, but that's also been provided to you. So at this point, I'll turn it over to you all for any questions.
I would support your endeavor. We have
Thank you.
more ADA. It's very important.
What does the building expand, gets longer by 4 feet?
Almost 5.
Almost 5, yeah, 4.8.
Yeah, it seems minimal. There wasn't a process to just do like an administrative, like this is a non-substantial, insubstantial amendment. So I said, let's ask the board.
Okay.
So
Nothing else is changing other than the length of the building and the parking spaces, parking lot
Correct.
size a little bit, but
And our stormwater management system was already oversized to begin with, so we don't anticipate, needing to having that impacted in any way.
total number of units still change. You're just changing the character or the labeling of them, if you will.
Correct. Yes. Total number of units still 32.
And the parking lot's not growing towards the property line, it's going the other direction, east and west.
Yes.
Correct. Yep.
we probably vote to on something for the record that we could, if
What do you want to vote
you're
on?
so inclined to
You
approve
might.
their subdivision amendment, then or not subdivision, site plan amendment, then
Do
I think
have
that would
a-
be.
Does anybody want to make a motion on this?
I'd move we accept and approve their request to have additional 88 units and the parking lot extension.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Wasn't that easy?
I had one question for you, Michael.
Yes.
Does this approval of the site plan amendment reset that 12-month period of the site plan approval?
I wouldn't think so. Do you
No.
want it to? Would you like to request
That
it
would be
was-
helpful based on our new timeline with the
So I'm trying to
low
think.
income
The
housing
last
tax
thing that
credit program
happened
now opening in spring.
was
May 1st, I believe, was when we received our approval. Is that what you were asking?
yeah, the original approval was. Did you already get a 1-year extension on the original approval? No.
No.
No. Okay.
Not this
No.
one.
So what I would think would probably be more to your benefit is you got approved in May, then in the spring, I wouldn't maybe wait till April, but maybe it's February or March. Getting an extension from your original, like your 1-year anniversary basically, and getting it, extending it a year from there rather than just, because that would possibly make it more complicated. If you just do it now, I think it'd be easier and simple and cleaner that,
Understood, that's fine. Thank you.
yeah, and I don't think there would be, I mean, we would have the conversation, but
We're
That's
betting
just
1,000 on a proven extension, so keep it
As
going.
long as you don't
Good.
change anything.
So, when are you gonna hear about your funding?
So this funding round actually opens, the applications are due in February. And so I anticipate we'd hear 3 to 4 months after that. So that pushes back our timeline on the project a little bit. I think last time we had spoken with you, we said that we anticipated delivering the project in summer, early fall 2025. It's looking like 3 to 6 months later than that.
Mhm.
But it all kind of depends on this particular round of funding and whether the project is selected since it is competitive.
It makes sense to me what you had to say. We'll see you in next May.
yeah, around
Sounds
that. I did have 2 things. Oh, police and fire, still working on it.
Okay, thank you for that update.
Yeah, and I will work with them to get that. I mean, I think police basically said they didn't have anything. I will confirm that, but fire, I want to make sure. They also may not, but I'd like to get it to you in writing if we can.
That'd be really appreciated. Having that sort of documentation to submit with our application is always helpful.
Yeah.
We want to make sure all of our Ts are crossed.
Yeah,
and Is.
no, I mean, no issues have come up yet, but I know it's, kind of a trust but verify thing. Okay, I think that was, oh, and I can give you a letter of decision for the vote tonight for your records as well, if that helps.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks.
Good evening.
Wow.
Well, there's a familiar face.
Mhm.
To break the fourth wall, I'm having trouble getting into this Zoom meeting. Do you mind giving me the
Yep.
Yeah, the ID. I do have a presentation as usual.
Number top.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, thank you guys for having me. I do have a presentation to share. So I think as most of you are probably aware, I've been working with the town's comprehensive plan committee since about July of 2022 on the comprehensive plan update. And we're kind of at a point of transition in the project where we want to start sharing some updates with both you and the select board, which I'm working on this week. Were any of you on the committee for the 2014 update?
No.
Okay. Good. So this will be new information generally. Okay. So in general, what I'm planning to cover is just a brief overview of the planning process. And then we've had some pretty extensive public engagement. So I'll go through that just briefly. We have a draft vision statement and guiding values of the plan to share, and then I'll share sort of the next steps. So
You sent this to me, did you know?
This presentation?
Yeah.
no,
You send this to me? I don't think so.
no, but I did share a number of other resources with you.
Wasn't there a link to this or was there no?
No, not of the presentation.
All right. cool.
Yeah.
I just wondered, because I was looking at something looked pretty similar to this
Oh,
an hour and a half ago.
oh yeah, probably from, so we've had a series of topic meetings with the public, and there was a presentation given at each of those meetings. So So just briefly, comprehensive plans in Maine are guided by the state's Growth Management Act. It used to be the state planning office that oversaw them. We don't have a state planning office anymore. So it's the Department of Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry, but essentially they will review our comprehensive plan once complete and make sure that we have a number of required elements, which include a vision statement, a public participation summary, sort of a regional coordination program of how we're planning to work with the towns surrounding us, a future land use plan, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with based on your work on the planning board. That sort of guides your ordinance amendments that you end up pursuing over the next 10 to 12 years or the lifetime of the plan. We also have 13 required topic area inventories. That ranges from things like housing, natural resources, the economy, historic and archaeological resources, down to sort of the granular public facilities and public services that the town provides. And then based on the goals, policies, and strategies that end up coming out of the plan, we also create a capital improvement plan, sort of indicating how we're going to fund the recommendations of the finalized comp plan. So just briefly, I wanted to share where we are in the process. I came into this in July of 2022, but I do want, and so that's where this timeline starts, but I do want to caveat that the Comprehensive Plan Committee has been working on this for much longer than that, I think since December of 2021. And they had extensive conversations and meetings sort of before I came on board. But then when I came on board, we did sort of a in-depth audit of the policies that were included in the 2014 comprehensive plan, assessing if they were still relevant to the community now. And then we went through and did sort of a preparation and review of current data so that we could begin drafting the topic area inventories that I discussed. We then spent about January of this year until about a month ago doing pretty extensive community visioning and public engagement sessions. And then we're now at the point where we are finalizing the topic area inventories required by the state, and we're working to start actually brainstorming the final recommendations of the plan. So the goals, the policies, and the strategies. We will also be having some future land use workshops in January that will be specific to that element of the plan. And our hope and intention is that we have the plan available for an anticipated adoption at the June 2024 town meeting. That schedule is subject to change a little bit, but that is our hope at this point. So just in general, I want to talk about the public participation that we've received thus far. We put together a social pinpoint website, which I think is probably what you were looking at.
Got a feeling.
Yeah. So that one had 839 unique users. That was unique IP addresses that it was tracking. We had 278 unique stakeholders, and that was somebody that actually interacted with some of the interactive elements that we had. So our online survey and an interactive map that we had available. We also had 33 specific comments on that interactive map. That was sort of location-based comments where people could say, you know, I want to park right here, and they dropped a pin on the map. We had 266 survey responses to our online survey. Then through the summer, the committee was working doing 7 tabling events at sort of the events going on throughout the community. We had a kickoff meeting for the project in April, and some of the committee members went to one of the local nursing homes to do a similar public kickoff meeting with those folks. We did 10 business interviews with some of the largest employers in the community. And then more recently in October and November, we kind of dove a little bit deeper on a lot of the data that we had found. And we did 3 more in-depth topic exploration meetings where we talked about the topics that we had identified through the rest of that public outreach to be of sort of the utmost importance to the community. And then more recently, Michael and I actually had a fun and exhausting morning at Great Salt Bay School, where we did an activity, a mapping activity with 5th and 6th graders there. And they provided some comments that were hung up, but they fell off, but they're in the back of the room. And then we also passed out many cards, flyers, and posters all over town. So this is a screen grab of the interactive map. I would encourage you to explore it if you haven't already. There was a number of pretty interesting comments. Some more common themes from the map were things about sidewalks and bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. A lot of stuff about recreation, suggestions of where to put a park, suggestions of where to put a dog park, suggestions of sort of more natural resource areas to conserve for passive recreation. We also had a bunch of comments around downtown streetscape improvements. Someone specifically attached a photo of downtown Hollowell, and they were talking about undergrounding utilities and doing sort of these big major streetscape improvements. And then we also had lots of comments around that people liked the existing natural areas that we've preserved and suggestions to preserve more natural area going forward. And then in general, to get really detailed, we started to hear a lot of interesting questions from the survey. It was a mix of sort of short answer questions where people could fill in whatever they wanted, and choose your own adventure questions where you were sort of ranking things. The top strategies that we heard from folks that would most improve quality of life in the next 10 years or the lifetime of the plan. The first of 16 strategies was to expand housing options for all income and age levels, both for purchase and for rent. We also heard sort of the second top strategy was to improve pedestrian infrastructure. And the third was to acquire and protect more open spaces and natural resource areas, and then to enhance public transportation in Damariscotta and the region generally. I think this is all probably stuff that you've heard a number of times, but and that's not necessarily surprising in this case, since we were, trying to hear public opinion. And then to get down a little bit further, we asked people to sort of fill in the blank to answer what I love about Damariscotta is. And this is a word cloud of the responses that we received. So some of the themes were community and friendly people. 15% of respondents mentioned the downtown specifically. 10% mentioned businesses or local businesses. 9% mentioned nature or water. And then you can see a number of other things, restaurants, shops, beauty, things like that. And then we also asked people what they think Damariscotta needs more of. The word cloud, just so you know, words get bigger as more responses are received. So you can kind of see housing, sidewalks, businesses, affordable, and then parking. Parking is kind of inconclusive. Some of the short answer respondents mentioned increasing parking. Some people mentioned decreasing parking. So while that's a big one, you can't really draw much conclusions from parking specifically, but the other four are pretty interesting. And then we also asked people what Damariscotta needs less of. Answers in this category were much more disparate, but the largest emerging themes were things like big box or chain stores, and 9% of people who mentioned less traffic or less congestion. And then I wanted to include this survey question just so you can kind of see. I think this one was really illuminating to me because I was trying to understand, how people actually see the community. And I think I was surprised to see, before going into a deep dive on some of the more recent data, that a lot of people were saying that this is the place to raise a family. If you've looked at the 2014 plan, it was a pretty heavy focus on retirees, older people, aging in place. And I think what this shows, and then what we found from the data when we dove into some of the drafting of the inventories, was that really what has happened, especially in the past 10 years, but even starting about 15 years ago, was that a lot more families are coming here, or a lot more people of sort of, I guess I would say, prime child rearing age are moving here. So even if they don't have kids yet, you know, they're looking for a place to settle down. And then, as you know, of course, I don't think a lot of the rest of this is very surprising to you all. It's as a place to recreate, as a shopping destination, as a rural community, and as a quiet place to retire, but then also as a major economic center for jobs. And then we asked people to sort of define the phrase small town character. This is obviously one that I think we hear a lot, but it was helpful for me to see what people mean when they say small town character. So 28% of respondents mentioned the people. There was also reference to community, businesses, downtown character, and 4% specifically used the word vibrancy, especially in relation to the downtown. And then we asked a number of questions on the survey around housing, just because that has started to become a major theme at this point. So we asked what, if any, major housing issues exist within the community. And of course, the themes that emerged ended up being 61% of respondents mentioned housing affordability. 30% mentioned just a lack of availability generally. So sort of at all income levels, there's just a lack of housing availability. And I mentioned that we did some interviews with some of the major employers. And that was another thing that they had pointed out as well, is in general, obviously affordability is a major issue. And I think we're kind of all aware of that. But the other thing is when places like the hospital or a number of the banks mentioned this, when they're trying to hire people that even can make, you know, are making a larger salary and could theoretically afford places, there's just not anything on the market for them to buy. So the lack of availability was mentioned over and over. And then also just a lack of diverse housing options. So what we had found out was something like 66% of Damariscotta is sort of single family detached homes. That is smaller than other surrounding communities where, you know, more like 80 or 90% tends to be single family homes. But still is sort of a lack of diverse options between, you know, large family homes and smaller apartments. You know, if I'm older and I'm trying to downsize, maybe I want a 1 or 2 bedroom house or condo versus a larger family home. So that was a lot of the conversation around housing there. We also asked, and this, I think I chose this question because I think you'll find it interesting for your work. We had asked how people would describe the amount of residential and commercial development. And I think you can see from this, most people are agreeing that there is not enough apartments or multifamily units. It was a little over 60% of the respondents said that there was not enough, the orange bar. And then similarly, people were also saying that there was a majority was saying that there was not enough single family housing either, which I think kind of underscores some of what we've been talking about. We also asked the same question around commercial. This one was a little bit different, but I think one thing we kept coming back to was some of the short answer respondents were mentioning restaurants and food and beverage, specifically that they wanted restaurants that were open later. And then just generally more commercial and industrial where job creation could be had. So moving into our topic exploration meeting series, I talked about how we kept having these emerging themes. So we decided in late October and early November to have sort of 3 separate meetings where we would do a deep dive on the data for people who were interested, and then break out into small group sessions to kind of strategize how we would solve some of the issues that we had identified. The first meeting was focused on the downtown and sort of immediately surrounding village area. So not just Main Street downtown specifically, but also the residential neighborhoods directly surrounding it. And we talked a lot about the downtown streetscape improvements that people were interested in, general infrastructure improvements, sea level rise in relation to the downtown parking lot area, and then the need for more housing within, especially within walking distance to the downtown, with the infrastructure to make walking to your favorite restaurant or to stores possible. And then we also talked, then the next meeting was focused more specifically on housing issues and opportunities. And we heard from folks around how they would solve the identified housing issue in the community if they were planners themselves. And then we had a final meeting in early November focused specifically on active living. That was things like active recreation and bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure specifically. And for that small group session, we broke people out into groups, and we had Damariscotta dollars that we gave them, and they had to choose how they were going to spend that on priority sidewalk or bike lane infrastructure projects with a limited amount of money. And then, as I mentioned at the outset, the state requires us to have a vision statement or a short aspirational paragraph that sort of articulates what we would like to achieve within the plan. At the beginning of the planning, or at least when I joined the planning process in July of 2022, the committee had also talked about organizing the plan differently than how they had in 2014. There was a desire to kind of do more values-based planning, and we came up with 3 values based on all of the public engagement, sort of intended to be broad statements that describe the preferred outcome or end state. And the 3 major values that we came up with was sustainability, livability, and vibrancy. And then this is the draft vision statement that we came up with. This will continue to be refined as we finalize the plan. But what we had come up with is Damariscotta is the cultural and economic hub of Central Lincoln County, focused on providing for our community. We recognize that some level of development is necessary to accomplish our goals, and we are committed to growing in a way that celebrates our defining assets, our historic downtown, our unique natural habitats, and our commitment to being a welcoming, healthy, and diverse community. We are moving towards increased sustainability, livability, and vibrancy in all of our decisions. And then just to define those sort of, they can tend to be amorphous terms. For the purposes of the plan, we've defined sustainability as meeting our own needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. And that's not just environmental, but also economic and social as well. So making sure that our fiscal capacity allows us to keep providing this level of service for the long term. And then livability, that's generally means a range of outcomes that impact the well-being of individuals and communities as a whole. That includes things like housing, walkability, bikeability, and then environment and health metrics like water quality or typically like water quality metrics. And then vibrancy, we heard a lot in relation to the downtown, and that's typically defined as being full of energy and life. It's creating a sense of place through things like historic preservation or public art, and it's the ability to connect with others. So ensuring that the downtown is welcoming, that there's infrastructure to get people, infrastructure, namely sidewalks and bicycle infrastructure, to get people where they need to go and allow them to sort of connect with others on their way there. And then, like I said, we're kind of at a transition phase in this process. We are intending to finalize the topic area inventories on December 12th, and then we're moving into goal setting and prioritization of recommendations in January. We also will have 2 future land use workshops in January, which we are planning to send notice of. So we hope that you will all come and provide your input there. And then we will be ready to send, or then we'll go through sort of the final steps of drafting the plan, and we'll be hopefully ready to send you all a recommendation in late February or early March. The state requires that the planning board has its own public hearing and review period for the plan. So we will hopefully have that for you in early April. And then the select board will hold their own public hearing on the warrant, and this will ultimately need to go to town meeting vote. Comprehensive plans have to be adopted by the legislative body. So our plan at this point is to have that ready for June. That is subject to change, but we're hoping to have it in summer or fall of 2024 if the schedule goes well. I did leave a time for Q&A or any feedback that you might have, but I do just want to plug, I had sent in your packets for this meeting a link to our social pinpoint site, which has kind of more in-depth information of the survey and basically every activity that we've held so far. And that will also be where upcoming public meetings are posted as well. So if you have any questions, you can look there. It was linked in your packet, or it's on the QR code. But does anyone have any questions about this process or where we are or about comp plans in general?
I'd say you're doing a good job.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Hard work.
Thanks.
I
Okay.
didn't see anything that I didn't expect, you know, in terms of.
Yeah.
Oh, good, you come up with that crazy, I mean.
Yeah.
It's pretty,
Yeah, and I mean, the good thing is, I think sort of from the outset of our public engagement, we've seen very similar comments and themes over and over. It seems like there's general consensus about what needs to be done. We're kind of just at the point where we're writing all of that down and putting it into the final plan. So I think we're in a good spot. And Jenny and Anne are both on the committee. If you have questions, you have resources here as well. All right. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Want some links on here.
Is that you're looking for the memo that Isabel shared with me that I shared with you?
I think so, yes. Look at this one right here.
Yeah. Yeah. What's that? There's the work plan.
I went through all of that.
Is that the
Pretty
Gantt chart?
interesting, actually.
Okay.
You guys
Key
on the show?
dates, public engagement summary, public website. Yeah, there, I mean, there's good information in there, and
It's essentially a more in-depth version of the presentation I just gave. I kind of cherry picked the questions that I thought you'd be most interested in.
Yeah.
They're all there.
No, I went through this. It's actually pretty interesting. You've done a lot of work. You really have.
Okay.
And it is a lot of work.
plenty more to come.
Keep us posted. We'll keep watching.
Well,
All right, so following on my promise or commitment, I think of the last meeting was to provide a town planner's report every month now. We don't need to go through all of it, but obviously the headline here was Clipper Ship Landing, which you may have already heard about in the newspaper. It would seem to not be happening. I think I pointed out their approvals are still active, but and put the odds of it moving forward is of them coming back anyway is pretty low. So
Well, I still, they could come back and come up with a smaller scale operation up there pretty easily.
sure, yeah,
you
I
know,
think
which might make more sense for that area anyway.
Yeah.
And that thing is way too big. The other thing they could put out there, you know, the issue with housing in town is trying to keep everybody that is working, find them a place to live. There isn't a place. I'm surprised that the hospital hasn't actually built some kind of an apartment complex to put their people in.
I thought there was talk of that. You know, they actually,
I'm surprised they haven't.
yeah,
I
they
mean,
own land.
Scott down in Schooner bought that red house on Biskie Road
oh really?
with expressly to put people in.
Good.
Well, there's a lot of, so on Pump
That's what
Street
you-
in
it needs
Newcastle,
seasonal.
Yeah, at Plum Street in Newcastle, the Damariscotta Grill bought a house.
I'm not surprised.
Brendan Parsons, you know, Shuck Shack, he has that place on the end of the Salt Bay
Yes, he does.
that my kids live in.
Whatever.
I've
Did
been hearing,
Scott just buy that?
Huh?
Did Scott just buy that?
Just bought it. Yeah.
Which house did he buy?
it's on Biskie Road, is it the
Before
red
the
house?
fire station,
Oh,
No. it's
the one afterward,
It's the larger red one right across.
just before the
from,
fire station.
place.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, he bought that expressly to put people in. You know, because he says the biggest problem he's got in the summer is people. Trying to keep people in there.
Yeah.
Workers that'll actually show up.
People gonna come from.
Right.
I think, I know that
Greenville,
I have a good friend up there. And some of these kids come from overseas for the summer.
He's talking about Russians. I will tell you that several large hotel systems around are hiring in European kids.
Well, Bread and the Bone has a big, you know, and Beth and Warren, they have a big Romanian crew.
Not surprised.
I know a lot of restaurants, that's
And the
the
Tur-
J1,
and the-
J1V
Brendan has the
visas,
Tur-
whatever it is,
Turkish
or
kids.
Yeah, so I mean, they're coming from wherever they can get them. But the thing is, they're bringing these people in here, they gotta have a place to put them.
Yeah, but then they have to get to work. They have to, like,
Well, like Scott says, from there, they can walk. And he said, if I have to, I'll go pick them up, and he will go.
yeah, I feel like that's an easier issue to.
Damariscotta Mills all the way to the Shut Shack, that's one thing. But, you know, Biskie Road to downtown.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal, you hop right on Church Street, chug right down there. And there's the grocery store is there, the laundromat is there. You've got a bunch of other infrastructure, they can go get a sandwich or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, they're in the middle of a good place to have that happening.
Mhm.
I know down to the Bradley Inn, they used to rent a couple of the houses on the
right,
Point Road.
Yeah.
Just to get, and those kids were all Russians, mostly girls. There was a couple of guys. One of them got causing a lot of trouble. They're sitting home, but most of them, for the most part, you know, they work like hell. They want to come here, make some money. They want a roof over their head, and
Fair.
you know.
Reggie Riley did it for years, he's still,
What's that? Ed?
yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, B's apartment builder there in New Harbor usually. You know, the Chase's apartment building usually houses those students.
So I mean, this is where things are kind of going, and there just isn't any place for them to stay in the Damariscotta area, or even close to it. So business owners are, you know, starting to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that house up there, but 4 or 5 bedrooms. Whatever. The Damariscotta report for today.
You went to a meeting of FEMA?
Oh, yes, I did. Yeah, FEMA had a meeting, last week, I think it was, or it wasn't FEMA, it was the US Geological Survey, but in conjunction with FEMA, the floodplain maps in our area, well, for the whole coast of Maine, basically, are being updated. They're my understanding is the major part is they're just gonna be more accurate, more detailed. Right now, if you look at where the floodplains are, it's like someone drew it with a crayon. They are using like LiDAR and satellite and all of that to make it more accurate. And so it will be, it's going to be over the next 5 years. I think it'll be 5 years before it actually gets implemented. But there will be some people who will be coming out of floodplain, some people who are going into floodplain, some people who are already in floodplain are staying in, some people who are out are going to stay out. So we're going to see how that all works, but it should be more accurate. So that's good. I'm not sure how it's going to impact things like shoreland, and we should have pretty good topography, elevation maps, contour maps, but if we can get that data. So anyway, that's happening. So keep your eyes peeled in 5 years for that stuff to be implemented. I mentioned administrative last time, or at our last regular meeting, I had you sign a bunch of stuff. I'm getting on top of the website, the minutes, all of everything, so that hopefully we can have everything filed properly. There was one thing I wanted to discuss with all of you is the planning board meeting dates. Obviously, we're having a meeting today, December 4th. I believe the board already voted to move the January 1st scheduled meeting to the following week, to the 8th. February 5th, I don't see any issue with. That would be the first Monday. The Tuesday, the March meeting, I think we should move. It is, we can't have it here anyway because of the election the following day. There's a primary election, so statewide, so they're going to need this room. I am suggesting we move it to the following Tuesday. I believe that was Tuesdays were preferred, but I don't know.
You want to do that right now? Tuesday's not great.
I think we should keep it Mondays because
We can.
I usually have something going on Tuesday.
it's confusing to go from Monday to Tuesday.
Okay. And I think the comp plan committee wants to also have their meeting here on the 11th, which is the Monday, which is that Monday, but
What, is it that Monday or?
it's the Monday after the election. So if we moved our meeting back a week, usually the comprehensive plan committee meets the second Monday of the month. So we could probably bump the comp plan committee. 2 of you are on it, so you would know.
You're talking about January?
March.
March.
We also don't have to decide it right now, but that's, I think, the
The
only
next
one that
7 months, it's not gonna hurt to have one on a Tuesday.
Let's get a little
Right,
closer.
that's-
We'll make them.
Okay, we can wait. Okay. So, but going forward, and I figure we'll do this at our July meetings, like the first of the fiscal year. I think I explained this in here. It'd be good to like schedule out our 12 meetings. It'll be regular. We just notice in the newspaper once, and that way we don't have to. It's in there. Everybody that wants them. If we need to add to it, we always can. But this way, it's just done. We don't have to worry about re-noticing special meetings and things like that. Anyway, so look at those dates. And it looks like March is probably the only one that should be an issue. I imagine April 1st won't be an issue. It is Easter Monday, but I don't think anybody, I don't think that's throwing anybody off these days. So, I had a bunch of other stuff. I won't go through all of these. The only other thing I did want to mention was I'm gonna try finally to get in touch with each of you individually and schedule a meeting. We can sit down, if you've got 30 minutes or an hour, and you can tell me what your thoughts, dreams, and aspirations are for the town of Damariscotta. And we can go from there. So yeah, next planning board meeting, Monday, January 8th.
Wow.
We get it down.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, does anyone want to make motions or adjourn?
I make the motion, we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? All right.